Okay, we now come to that part of the day where we do some soapboxes, and with my trusted lieutenant down there, we will be using the egg timer once again. And first up, I'm going to invite Steve. Where's Steve? There he is, down there, to give us an update, project update on 5G. So, Steve, I think you're the first one here. There we are.
Thank you, Stuart.
Steve.
Thanks. Yes, so anybody who's been to any previous COMIT session, community days, will be aware that we're running a COMIT to 5G project. So what we're doing here is we're looking at how we can utilise or benefit from 5G in our construction environment. So basically, Stephen Muldowney, Ant Morse from Virgin Media O2 and myself have got together, and we've come up with what we think are some good starting points to start proving some of this technology. This is only going to be a very brief update. We've done some things before, and we've got a webinar coming up next month as well. So I don't want to tell you too much about it, otherwise you won't come to the webinar. So basically, we kind of explored what opportunities we've got. I won't go through all those, but these are an example of some of the things that we can do. These will take quite a bit of getting going. So what we thought is we'd choose some low-hanging fruit. So basically, we're splitting up into four phases really of the project. The first one is looking at how we can create a 5G pop-up network, perhaps where we don't have a 5G network or even a 4G network, and we can maybe utilise a private network across the entire site rather than using Wi-Fi where it can be a bit sketchy. And EMS have got some experience in doing this and delivering this elsewhere. So as part of this project, we want to demonstrate that and be able to provide some real quality data for the community. And how we're going to do that is we're going to do a little pop-up small network in a box, and then kind of do a full site as well. So we're hoping to do that in the first 3 months, because we're planning on kicking this off after we've done the webinar next month, so probably start in August. We are looking for other participants, especially contractors, any construction members who want to be part of this, who have got any construction sites where they've got problems, etc. So please come and talk to me if you've got any, if you want to be part of this, if you've got any issues you want to overcome, and also get in touch if you want to do any other things that were on the previous page, because this is going to keep running. So phase 2, we're going to be looking at how we can help keeping the contract programme on time, having a look at how we can do using LTEM, tracking equipment, materials, all that kind of stuff. Phase 3, how we can make sure that everything's tracked through from point of order to the actual finished product on site, and we're hoping that again some of these this 5G technology can kind of help with that. And then finally, how do we can track our people and keep them safe? So that's kind of like the 4 phases that we're going to tackle in this first part. We're going to continue the COMIT to 5G theme. So like I said, there will be other things coming up, which if anybody's got any problems, any issues, please reach out to me, and we'll make sure that we can get those in and moving on. As I did mention, we have got a webinar on Stuart's Happy Hour on the 15th of July. So if you can please join that, there's the link there. And we'll be giving you the full background as to how it's come about, what the technologies are, etc. So there'll be Ant, Stephen, and myself on there, and hopefully we'll generate some good information and hopefully some good questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Just one other important note about the happy hours. There's one other requirement. You must bring a beer or a drink of some description. It's the happy hour.
Gin and tonic.
How are we doing for time?
Yeah, perfect. Good.
Brilliant. Okay, so one other update on a project is the smart contracts. If I can invite Sarah. Where's Sarah? Oh, there she is. Sarah's just going to say a couple of words about the Smart Contracts Digital Project. Sarah, there we are.
I haven't got 500 words to say on this, I will have to say. So the purpose of the Smart Contract Project, actually, we started this about 3 years ago before the pandemic, and weirdly with the pandemic we had other things to do. But the pandemic has been really helpful because it suddenly kicked a whole load of people who've done everything by paper into the 21st century for the first time in 150 years. Lawyers have decided that actually maybe they can get away from wet signed paper contracts, and that's driven a massive change in the way they think about contracts, because loads of them found during the middle of the pandemic that the contract was stored on a site that nobody had been for 18 months. They couldn't find it, they couldn't interrogate it, they didn't know what to do with it. You know, all the stuff you've been talking about, we've been talking about today about data and interconnectivity, and, you know, the 5G programme about looking at where supplies are and everything else will feed into how we can make our contracts more digital and more helpful, so that they're not just a sort of nice to have tick box at the beginning of the project, leave in a damp box somewhere, dig out 12 years later, recycle. That they actually become a useful tool so that we can do things like measure weather on site and automatically generate compensation events, so if the weather goes outside data. And we can do things like track supplies that come onto site and then automatically generate invoices and payment for suppliers of materials, same with labour. Now, I'm not suggesting that we're going to be able to turn a JCT or an NEC into a smart contract overnight. That's probably a stretch target for anyone. But there's loads of stuff we can be doing more of if we get more input into it. And at the moment, quite a lot of contracting is done by high-level banks and governments and, you know, massive great contractors. But actually, there are 350,000 small and micro enterprises in construction who aren't served by our current tools, but actually always have a smartphone with them. They don't have an office, they don't have lawyers, they don't have that kind of stuff. So what we want to try and do is bring together as many people as we can to kind of work across the whole supply network, covering everybody's interests, including 2 women and a van and a dog, in that, so that we actually have tools which are helpful to the sector and draw on all the bits of data that we are now creating, so that actually we create contracts which work for us on site. So we'll be looking at how we can use digital contract systems, digital systems, data and all that kind of stuff to try and actually create a better link between all of these, so we don't have legal in a box, a damp mouldy box obviously. John Grisham used to refer to them as fish files, things that you leave in the corner and just get smellier and smellier and smellier. But we want to move away from that view of contracts as fish files and to move them towards actually a useful tool that you can then interrogate after. You can see where you're losing money, you can see where you're making money, you can see what's causing barriers on your project. You can actually start to get some data to help you bid better, evaluate what you're doing better, and actually use these contracts as proper integrated tools in your business. So what we're going to try and do is get together, you know, the techies, the legal, that's me, the contractors, the suppliers, everyone who's interested. You all use contracts all the time, or probably you do use contracts even if you don't think of them in that mouldy box sense. But we want to get everyone together to try and work out how we can put together a project that starts to take elements of what we're doing, and then eventually that will build into a really sophisticated system. But we're going to start small, because I'm not going to try and boil the ocean, although I did want to get some random jargon in there just for the fun of it. I feel better if I get a bit of low-hanging fruit or random jargon in. So if you're interested, please get involved. Please let us know. You can give us much or as little time as you want. You can just let us know what your challenges are, what you would like to see. You know, if you could have a crystal ball and an unlimited supply of tech and money, how would you like your contracts to look to serve your business better? So yeah, get involved, get in touch, and we will create smarter contracts that work for the sector properly, rather than are driven by lawyers and their beloved love of ink and pens and mouldy boxes.
Thank you. And lack of grammar, I have to put that in there as well. If anybody's read any of these contracts, I always remember the IC 5th edition, and had to come up for air after the first paragraph. But anyway, that's another matter. Is there any questions? We've got a couple of minutes, haven't we, Ian? Yeah. Any questions for Sarah or Steve? I don't see any. Good, okay. So let's move on. So, enable my team.